In 2006, the new social networking platform marked its debut when Jack Dorsey posted a message that he was, quote, "just setting up my Twitter." At the time, Dorsey's startup, which allowed users to share short messages with their followers, was a novelty. But in the coming years, it would become increasingly an important source of news and social discourse as it gathered millions of users around the world. Twitter now plays an outsized role in politics, culture, and even in democracy itself. As Twitter has grown, so have the risks posed by bad actors looking to exploit its opportunities and the data it holds. In July 2020, two teenagers hacked into the accounts of Twitter employees, gaining access to a number of high-profile accounts, including now President Biden and former President Obama. Those two teenagers then sent a series of tweets from the accounts and scammed Twitter users out of more than $100,000 in Bitcoin. In response, then CEO of Twitter, Dorsey, turned to a trusted name in the world of cybersecurity to lead an overhaul of Twitter's security practices. And for more than a year, that's what this individual tried to do until he was terminated by Twitter and their new CEO this past January. Last month, this individual released a whistleblower disclosure detailing a number of alarming allegations about Twitter's security practices. Without objection, his disclosure will be entered into the record. That whistleblower's name is Peter Zatko, or as he's more commonly known, Mudge. Mudge, thank you for joining us. You are here pursuant to a subpoena, not because you were opposed to appearing before the committee, but so the public can hear the details of your disclosure. You've alleged a number of security flaws and weaknesses within Twitter, flaws that may pose a direct threat to the safety and privacy of Twitter's hundreds of millions of users, as well as America's national security. The story actually began in 2011 when the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, first concluded that Twitter was playing fast and loose with user data. They found that Twitter had, quote, deceived customers and put their privacy at risk by failing to safeguard their personal information. The company was ordered by the FTC to, quote, protect the security, privacy, confidentiality, and integrity of user data. But you've claimed those changes have never been made. And more broadly, you allege that compared to other technology companies, Twitter's security standards remain woefully deficient. You allege that thousands of employees within the company have extraordinary access to sensitive information of Twitter's users, and that there is little oversight over how that information is assessed. Some Twitter users tuning in this morning may be asking, well, what's the big deal? When you sign up for Twitter, you knowingly hand over your email, your phone number, other information. That's how it is with most social media companies. But you expect, do we not, that these companies will take precautions to protect the personal information you give them. It's like depositing money at the bank. When you hand your money to the teller, they take it behind the counter and put it in a vault. But at Twitter, according to our witness today, the door to that vault is wide open. And that vault contains a lot more information about you than you can imagine. Twitter doesn't just have access to your tweets and email address. They also have access to all of the data necessary to directly access your device and even pinpoint your exact location. Say you're an American citizen, you're exercising your First Amendment freedom at a political protest, or maybe you're a woman seeking reproductive health care. If you're a Twitter user, it may not just be you at the protest or in that healthcare facility. Unbeknownst to you, someone else may be right there with you in your pocket or purse. Of course, many of us are comfortable with some of the programs on our phones having location data. It's helpful. But when that data isn't secure, we become vulnerable to bad actors, scam artists, stalkers, even foreign agents. To give an example, earlier this year, a Saudi national who worked for Twitter was convicted by a federal jury for stealing the personal data of dissidents who criticized the Saudi regime and handing the data over to the Saudi government. This is a matter of life and death, as we know, for these dissidents, as the butchering of Jamal Khashoggi made clear. There's also the matter of Twitter's reach. It was one of the largest megaphones that world leaders ever had at their disposal. We've already seen what can happen when small-time hackers break into Twitter accounts belonging to government officials. But what if? What if next time it isn't two teenagers trying to pull a crypto scam? Imagine if it's a malicious hacker or a hostile foreign government breaking into the president's Twitter account, or sending out false information claiming there was a terrorist attack on one of our citizens. We could see widespread panic. The bottom line is this: Twitter is an immensely powerful platform that cannot afford gaping security vulnerabilities. Today, we have a chance to engage in a good faith, bipartisan discussion to ask what needs to be done. A final point: politicians on both sides of the aisle have criticized Twitter. I, for one, believe that Twitter should be doing far more to combat the proliferation of hate speech and conspiracy theories. Republicans, on the other hand, claim that Twitter censors their conservative speakers. I urge my colleagues to set some of these partisan differences aside and try to find the common ground we need to establish security standards that will be raised today by our whistleblower.